Welcome to WTF, Ways to Freedom podcast show, where we explore all areas that bring freedom in state of mind, body, and spirit. Sit back, open your mind, and take a journey with your host, Ishangi.
Peace, everyone. Blessings, everybody. This is a great start, a beginning of something new. Give thanks for tuning in. Work with me here because I'm actually trying to also navigate how to work with this new StreamYard. Can you see my virtual background is kind of acting up tonight? You know, this is what it is. I'm working on and getting it better. But bottom line is that we are here. We are starting. Tonight is our first episode, and we have a really great episode with you tonight. We're going to talk about some serious things as we go throughout this series. Starting out, though, let's talk about what the topic is tonight. Tonight, we're going to talk about we've all been programmed to become mediocre. I want to give some time for folks to come in. I see that folks are coming in. I appreciate you coming in. This virtual is really, really bugging right now. It was working all great today. And as soon as you go live, it want to start bugging out. But nevertheless, please bear with me with the quality. We're going to get better. We're going to get better. It's first time. So I'm a perfectionist. I want to make everything be stellar the first time. And, I have to either have a woosah moment and realize that sometimes you just got to go with what you got. The bottom line is getting the message out and engaging with the tribe of folks that are here. So I give thanks for you taking time out to come and log on with me. I appreciate all of your, whether it be hours or years of following, sharing, supporting the work that I've been doing. I am in deep gratitude for you because there's so many other things that you could be doing. There's so many other, other podcasts out there. And I really, really am thankful for you tuning in, whether you're tuning in live now or you will be tuning in, watching a replay. So just going to let a couple folks trickle in as well, but feel free to populate. Let us know where you're from. Where you dialing in from. I see people coming in, so feel free to, again, let me know where you at, where you coming from, what state, what city, even what zip code or time code that you're channeling in, so we can and get ready to get started on this show tonight. Let me make sure that I'm a note taker. I got a lot of information that I want to share, and I also want to make sure I do it precisely. So I will be looking at my gadgets here to make sure that I'm following my script here to make sure that I get everything out. But the concept of, podcast is something that, before I even get into tonight's episode, is something that I felt I needed to do. The first thing was, realizing that I've been a writer of culture, history, health, and et cetera for over 31 years. And for me, it was very important to do so, mainly because I felt like there wasn't representation, at least from my generation. And this goes back to the 90s. Okay. So, we were reading books from our great historians, your Chancellor Williams, Dr. John Henry Clark's, even, we have our Jegna still living amongst us with Jegna Anthony Browder, my spiritual father, big up, and just, a host of other historians that we've been standing on their shoulders. And for me, it was important to take this information, although it was sometimes hard to, I won't say it was hard, it was a challenge to dissect because it was written on the level of academia, some of our historians, because they were professors. So my job was I took on the job of wanting to take this information and make it palatable for people in the hood, which led to me creating in 1993, April 10th, the Ghetto Times magazine, fresh out of college and rebellious because I realized that all the stuff I had spent my life trying to gear towards as far as the system is concerned, I started learning things about how systemic it is. And so I wanted to voice my opinion about what was happening to my peers. So with that said, that was okay. people coming from people are coming from Detroit. Kevin, peace up, Kevin from Detroit. We got Sister Ya Aniwa coming in, and we so basically me wanting to get this information out to our people was important because I didn't see it. When I looked for our magazines, your Jet, Ebony at the time, those were the leading Black magazines, and they weren't really putting out our story. So for me, it was important to try to create a venue that would allow that to happen. But we'll talk about that in another episode. I really didn't want to talk about that. I just wanted to give you some background. But with that said, I want to add in uh, the tenets of why I'm doing what I'm doing here, the importance of why I'm doing what I'm doing. What is the reason? What is the why for WTF, not what the beep, but Ways to Freedom podcast. The reason why I am doing this podcast show is because I understand that we're in dire straits of uh, alternative information. We're being inundated with a lot of information now that, now that the internet is, once the internet was created, it allows anyone to get on there, including myself. And so what that means is that people can get on there and say whatever they want to say. They don't have to back it up. They don't have to have a cite sources, and they can start rumors and all those type of things. So with that said, we have to be careful about those folks that are really searching for alternative truth. And I hate to say alternative, but my truth might not necessarily be your truth. However, there is a move to make people a consensus to make the majority of people think a certain kind of way. So with that said, we're on a constant attack of the works that our great giants have done. If you think about it, in the last 20 years, we've seen the decline of Black bookstores. There's very few, if far in between. These are spaces where you can go and get some of those books that you won't find unless you know about it. If you go on Amazon or if you go on any other, Barnes and Noble and whatnot. But for the most part, our Black bookstores were not just places where we get information. These were safe havens. These were think tanks. These were places where people of like mind would come and sit down and collaborate. And we would not only go through books, but actually possibly strategize to make things better for ourselves. But we've seen that decline. And we'll talk about that in another episode about the decline of Black bookstores. But the point is that podcast has opened up the venue to allow anybody to get on and talk about whatever they want. And in today's generation, we see that folks don't really care about validation. They don't care about whether this information is true or not. If it's entertaining, they're gonna get the likes. And it can become viral. And when it becomes viral, then people think, well, it must be true because so many people are watching it. So that's the danger. So my goal is to try to, as best as I can, balance out or bring some balance to the other side. Bring some historical analysis, bring some consensus of citing sources or backing it up with data, and mostly not to just say something to make you feel good or to get you to make this become viral, but some of this stuff is going to hurt. Some of this information is not going to feel really good, and but it's the truth as far as my truth, and that's what my point is here, is to speak about ways to get to freedom in regards to have freedom of your own mind, being able to dissect information. Because the number one thing that I want you to walk away from is don't even take what I'm saying as gold. You can go ahead and research yourself. Okay, so we're going to talk about those types of thinkers and all those types of stuff that when we do these podcasts, right? So the basis of what WTF Ways to Freedom podcast show is about covers primarily these 6 themes. Okay. So we're talking about, and I'm just making sure everything is looking good. All right. Right. So we see people in. Thank you. Thank you all for tuning in. And then while you're here, it doesn't hurt to go ahead and just hit the like button. I would appreciate it. It helps to my channel grow. This is episode 1. I'd love for you to stay with the entire journey and see where we're going with this. So when you come in, if you don't mind doing a like, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. We're airing every Tuesday through Thursday. for season 1. And I greatly appreciate it and great gratitude. So basically, back to what I was talking about here, is that we are talking about 6 themes. So every episode is going to cover roughly one of these themes. Okay. And let me just run it down to you real quickly. Finances. I'm a financial therapist by practice. One of the things that I really try to work on is showing and sharing with our folks, particularly people of African descent in the United States and abroad, the different money methodologies and modalities that have been used by rich white families for over 200 years, and how they've used these practices to create intergenerational wealth, whereas we have never been invited to that table to have access to that information. Now, with the internet, with a lot of pillow talk, uh, the sources got out, information is available, and you can apply it. It doesn't matter what color you are. If you know this information, you can actually apply it and you can have the same results. So we're going to discover practical tips, strategies, and insights, and to achieve financial independence and to secure your future. Because the bottom line is, we were born not to work for someone and then die, but we are. The way the society teaches us is that we were born to work. You know, when you're little, they tell you, what do you want to be when you grow older? Oh, I want to do this. I want to do this. And it's a job affiliated to it. And with that job, they are trying to get you to lock into the rat race psychosis of being married to that job. And that job will never pay you to be free. It pays you just enough to show up every Monday. Okay. So peace, family, Sakia. Greetings. Thank you for tuning in. And so the other piece that we'll be talking about is spirituality. And spirituality, we understand that, people of African descent are a very spiritual folk. We have different denominations, different theories, be it from Christianity to Islam, even to Buddhism, even to free thinking. So with that said, as I've always been, I'm going to go hard. I'm going to pull no punches. Some folks might feel like, I'm feeling personally attacked. Never am I attacking you personally. We're talking about something historically. We're talking about something that predates us even being born. We weren't even in our parents, our fathers, jump before we were even brought here, right? So this information predates us. And this is the problem that we have, is that we get emotionally tied to certain things. Not to say this is always going to be controversial, because we're going to talk about some metaphysics and as well. We're going to talk about some deep stuff, y'all. So I'm excited to speak about these things. So spirituality, we're going to dive into the depth of spiritual practices, mindfulness techniques, and ancient wisdom to nourish your soul and find your inner peace. Okay. Health. Health is one of my most favorite topics as well. Health is going to cover a lot of things. We're going to explore holistic health, fitness routines, and mental well-being to empower yourself physically and mentally. Okay. So, we're not just going to be talking about, what good foods to eat. We're going to be talking about working out. We're going to talk about autophagy and how, it's important to, have intermittent fasting and fasting itself, and how these things can help the body. Because if you think about it, the body is the first machine. And everything that we see here is modeled off of that machine, that car, that computer. All those things are modeled off of the human body. And we're going to have episodes where we're going to talk about those things. So I'm excited to talk about that as well. And with health too, one of my favorite topics is gardening. We're going to talk about, simple gardening tips. How can I do something, even whether you live in an apartment or if you have a small backyard or a large backyard, what can you do and grow there? Because we're in a state right now, and if you know what Bill Gates is up to, we know that there's some control happening in regards to the access of food, or the food deserts that are being created. History is our fourth topic. Is one of my original loves, and the longest loves I've had is history. I'm a lover of history. We're going to uncover stories and events of our past and how they shape our present and future. So we're going to talk about his story, and we're going to talk about our story. It's very important that we do that analysis, because this gives us an idea why we are where we are, and who's responsible is the next point. I'm not afraid to name the names, as Steve Coakley ancestor would say. Then we're going to talk about STEAM, and STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. I'm also a STEAM instructor. I do it in an unorthodox kind of way. I bring in history as a basis of that. I actually have a course that I teach. It's called From Slave Ships to Steamships. And in this course, I speak about how, wrong number. I'm getting my stuff together, y'all. I'm going to get this right. But with STEAM, um, From Slave Ships to Steamships is one of my courses that I teach online and also in person to both youth and adults, continuing adult education. Is that we might have arrived, some of us, because I know that's going to be a debate. Oh, we were here before. I understand that. There were people here before slaves. I'm not going to get into all of that. But the point is that ethnically, people of African descent in the United States, we were brought over here for not just for slave labor, for free labor. There were some things that we had. There was some creative geniuses in us. There was some innovation that they had, that we had, that they knew that they were aware of. That's why they came to get us. So my goal with STEAM is to show ancient practices, things that are being now paraded as something really good. If you get on Pinterest or if you get on IG and you watch these reels and you fill your algorithm with all these things that are being created with DIY or home hacks, a lot of these things were done from our grandparents on up and just never, they just somehow didn't get passed on. But with STEAM, we're going to also not just talk about science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, but I'm going to talk about economics. With we're going to talk about architecture. We're going to talk about astrology. We're going to talk about astronomy. We're going to talk about, there's a host of other A's in there. I can't remember right now. But the point is that STEAM is a very, very important topic for us to get involved with because it's going to allow you some ability to be off grid, even if necessary, or even consider what can you do in your home, because the way things are going these days, the dependency is becoming more and more abundant. And as soon as there is any kind of break in the chain of supply, you will find just how dependent you are and what can you do when your source is cut. Okay, so it rings the stories of Octavia Butler and Parable of the Sower, right? If you read that book, you need to think about those things. How can we capture water? How can we, grow food? How can we capture seeds, just to have seeds? Because if we need to leave, where can we put these seeds so that when we get to our next spot, how can we start to replant? How do we know how to plant? Things of that nature. And the last one is philosophy. Philosophy would engage in discussions of time and in timeless events. I'm sorry that got cut off. I didn't finish that. I don't know why. Me multitasking. But philosophy is going to be perspectives. It's going to be my takes on certain things. Be it politically, be it socially, economically, etc. We're going to talk about all types of those things. Okay. So that's the preface of what this is about. And I enjoy and welcome you into coming to this. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into tonight's episode. And I really wish this damn virtual stuff was working better, but it is what it is. We're going to work it out, y'all. But I appreciate you being here. All right. So the summary, if you read the summary tonight of the show, tonight's show is, it's funny how we try to convince, I'm going to read it, convince ourselves how well we're living, saying things like life, living my best life, when actuality life be lifing, really means it may not be what we portray on social media. The real fact is we've all been programmed to be mediocre. The sooner we come to terms with this, we can then uncover who implanted this inside us and how we can rid ourselves from this intergenerational disease. Okay. We are suffering from a mindset of thinking that we have to show the world the great that we're doing, right? And a lot of us are suffering inside. A lot of us are going through a lot of pain, a lot of, some of us have developed into being hermits, introverts, especially with COVID, made us become even more internal. We probably had very little close friends that we could share our deepest secrets or deepest situations with. But even now, so it's become even worse. But then when we get on social media, we got to show that we're living our best lives. We're doing this, we're traveling, we're doing all this kind of stuff. And that's okay. That's your choice. But my point is that in the end, at the end of the day, when you're looking in the mirror, what's really going on, right? So with that said, wow, stuff is really bugging. Okay, well, we're gonna work it out. I appreciate it. Thank you, StreamYard. This is my first time using StreamYard as well, so it is what it is. But again, getting back to tonight's show, we're going to talk about we've all been programmed to be mediocre. So let's talk about this here. I'm going to put this slide up real quick. I love my slides, so I got to show y'all stuff. All right. So Jim Rohn said this: if you don't design your own life plan, chances are you're following someone else's plan. And guess what they have planned for you? Not much. And I say this a lot. I say this a lot in my courses and in my classes because it really does mean, it has some deeper meaning when you think about it. When you really, really think about it. If you don't design your own life plan, what does that mean? That means that you really don't have an idea where you're going and you're just going day to day. And a lot of us have been going day to day. You might think, I got a job and that's all I need to do is I'm paying my bills. But then if you know about what the midlife crisis is, people have midlife crises because they didn't plan anything. All they planned was to go to work and come home. When they get off work, they're not going to do anything else because they made their coins for the day. And they're happy about that. So they're not going to plan anything else. And then from there on, they'll get up, they'll spend the rest of the day either, chilling, watching the game or streaming Netflix, what have you. And they'll get up tomorrow and do the same thing. Well, this cycle becomes, if you continue it, can become decades worth of, those type of situations, right? So as I've always talked about the saying of, it takes 10,000 hours for people to become a master of something, right? So if you are simply wasting, well, I won't say wasting, but if you're getting off work at 5 and you don't do anything until 7 in the morning, the next morning to go to work, that's roughly 10 hours. If you were wasting 10 hours a day and not doing anything productive to try to get yourself into a better situation, that 10 hours a day that is used, that is, based on with nothing producing something that's going to get you in a better state, could be up to 70 hours a week. That 70 hours a week could be up to 280 hours a month. You do the math, you're on your way. That's over, what is that? 2,800. That's over 3,000 hours a year of wasting that time, right? Now, I need to include that you do sleep, right? So you get your 8 hours. So we'll take that number out. But the point is roughly 3,000 hours a year is being wasted on doing nothing to improve your life. And you're okay with that as long as you feel like, I got this check coming every 2 weeks, right? Until it stops coming. Then you got to think about what you're going to do. But the bottom line is that it takes 10,000 hours to be a master of something. So if you're wasting 3,000 hours a year, and we do the math, we know that just over 3 years, you're going to be a master of wasting time. And this is why folks get into their 40s and 50s with these midlife crises where they feel like, damn, I've been working all my life and I got nothing to show for it. Where's the stuff that, I'm still, my life is unfulfilled. I have a house and I have a family and I have a car, whatnot, but I'm still feeling unfulfilled. And all of that, you might have those material things, but you still might be tied to those material things because you probably are paying these things off still. And your ability to pay that thing off is based upon the person that is paying you every 2 weeks. So again, if you don't have that plan, you're part of someone else's plan. And again, the plan they have for you is once you get to 65, they're going to spit, after they've been chewing you up for 40 years, they're going to spit you out. And then you're supposed to live the remaining 20 years trying to figure it out. All right. So it's very important to think about those things because I'm 54 now, so I have to think about the rest of my life. You know what I'm saying? I'm in that stage. I'm not no spring chicken no more. You know what I mean? So I got to think about, the next 20 years, the next 5 years really are very vital what I'm going to do. And if I don't think about these things, then I'm putting myself and my bloodline in some serious situations here, right? So I got ahead of myself. So time's getting faster. And I know if you might agree with me on this, is that as time gets faster, as you get older, time seems to be getting faster. I mean, we're already in May of 2024. And that's just crazy how fast time is going, right? We're nearly half the year over. And it's not stopping. So I was thinking the other day, like, wow, it's been 5 years since COVID, really 5+ because of 2019. So, well, yeah, 5 years. So we're thinking about the situation of like time is really, really going really fast. So again, you know, we will become elders. I'm about to become an elder soon. And I got to think about that. What does it mean to be an elder? What does it mean that, now I got to think about my health. I got to think about my financial stability. I have to think about those things because I don't have 15, 20 years in front of me to worry about putting something away to invest in, et cetera, if it's financially, or, my health needs to be in good state. If it's not, and I'm in my 50s and I haven't gotten my colon checked, or I haven't, I've got high blood pressure. These are things that I need to start thinking about, right? So let me just go through these stats real quick. It's really, really something that I think is really important here. So today there's over 336 million Americans total, okay? And there's about one birth every 9 seconds, one death every 11 seconds, okay? There's approximately 41 million people of African descent in the United States, however you define yourself, be it Black, African American, if you are from diasporically. But basically, there's 41 million of us, that we're roughly 12.5% of the population. Now, what's interesting, when you look at this stat here, this is the stats from 1990 to 2025 projected, right? So we see whites are for the orange, or the yellow rather. Hispanics are for orange, Black with purple, and others are the turquoise, or whatever you want to call that color, right? So let's look at this. In 1990, we see that roughly nearly 80%, roughly 77% of the population was white, right? And we can see that we again here were roughly about that 12.5%. Hispanics were in that category, right? So we see 2020 that we see the decline. Europeans have been, or whites have been declining every year, or every time this is what, every 15 years, 20 years. So we're seeing that there's a decline in their population. So we know this. I mean, if you didn't know, white folks are declining, right? Who's on the rise is Hispanics. We can see their numbers jumping, right? Also the others, and you can include those with Asians, et cetera, right? But what's really startling to me, whereas I keep saying Europeans, Caucasians are declining, we are steady. We're steady. Our numbers don't change. Very, very little change in our numbers, right? And I find that very interesting because this number really hasn't changed since 1863. When we were emancipated over 161 years ago, we were 15% of the US population. We haven't been that high since. We are roughly around 12.5, 12.8, just under 13%, right? And I find that very interesting because whereas other folks are prospering, Hispanics are growing, the others are growing. Now, again, white folk, they decline, and then, that is what it is, what it is. There's so many reasons why, and we can talk about those, but, we know the reasons. But why are we at this steady pace? Why aren't we growing in population? That means that as many of us that are being born, many of us are dying. And that's not really a good situation. I find that very alarming. I find that really disturbing because I'm wondering why folks aren't speaking about this. We are not growing in population in this country. Okay. There's something that we should really be looking into. And a lot of it has to do with, we could talk about police brutality and the judicial system, the injustice, or if it's just them or the justice system, how it serves them. But there's also things that we've done to ourselves, from, the pig feet, from the cookouts, from the liquor, from the drugs, et cetera. And it's not just to say these things, but a lot of these things are escape mechanisms we're using because we're dealing with trauma being in this country, and we're dealing with not being able to have access to opportunities. So I know there's a whole variable amount of reasons why we're in a situation, but I don't think we talk about it enough. And I think that we should begin doing that because it is systemic. There's a reason why, and it's all ties into tonight's talk about how we've been programmed to be mediocre and not trying to get the best out of your life. Which, as I'm on this topic, I want to say we got to think about how important it is, how valuable life is. I mean, if you're able, if you have your mind, your faculties, your body's able to walk around, you can do some things. And a lot of us are still not trying to be the best because life is truly a gift. I mean, getting here was hard if you think about it. From the point that egg was fertilized, I mean, you made it. If you're listening to this podcast right now, you were one of those, either the sperm or the egg or whatever. You were on that team, part of that made it and created life. So it is a gift and it is a present. And a lot of us never really fulfill that full reason of being here. And there's a reason why. And we'll talk about that this evening. A lot of it's based upon the fact that we've been molded to be mediocre, as I'm speaking about. Okay. So with that said, with that as well, Black women are the most educated of us, all of us, right? But they're also the most in debt. Also the most in debt. They have all the certifications, but also have all the loans. So this thing is designed to put us in a situation where we are getting the certifications because they said that's what you're supposed to get. If you get certified, you can make all this money, but it costs a lot to get these certifications. So that actually delays your ability to grow wealth. These are things that we're not really talking about because we were not able to see the foresight, the plan of what this is to make us become mediocre. So what is the underlying cause? Because my thing is that, although our population is consistent, again, as I mentioned, we do have a robust $1.6 trillion purchasing power. This virtual thing is really ticking me off. But we have this robust $1.6 trillion purchasing power. We're still not in a great situation, right? And I think we're lying to ourselves if we say that. And I think that we're really being irresponsible for the next generation by not addressing these type of topics, right? So what's the underlying cause? Because that's what I really want to get into, the underlying cause. Well, let me play this clip for you by Nana John Henry Clark.
To be a respectful and a responsible handler of power. People do not train you in how to take their power away from them when they hold power by controlling you. To expect this of other people is a contradiction in terms. Freedom is something you do not wish upon, you do not dream upon. Freedom is something you take with your own hands. And when people dictate the content of education, they're dictating what goes into your mind. And when they dictate that, they're going to dictate your action. And though you might lie about it, so long as you are in this position, you are some form of a slave. Free yourselves from it and do not expect others to do it for you. We stop begging at the door of people who reduced us to beggars.
Asheo to what he said. My thing is, I just think about the mindset that we have and how do we get here? And when you think about that, it's actually a programming. There's a programming. And if you think about it, programming is done so easily because there's no instructor. When there's no one teaching, the teacher is whatever the consensus is doing, right? Which makes it the most effective way of teaching because there's really no one you can ask. You just follow what everybody else is doing. But think about this situation. I talk about this a lot too, is if you've ever seen the series Roots, right? Be it the old one or the new one. The first captives brought over, they rebelled, right? every moment they had, every chance they had, they were trying to fight and get back home. Why? Because they knew what freedom was, right? They knew what it was, and they didn't like where they were, and they were willing to die in some cases, and trying to get back home, right? But those that stayed, be it through forced breeding or whatever else, when they had children, those children were now first generation born on plantations. So, being on a plantation, they had their parents there to tell them what it was like back in Africa, for instance, or the Caribbean, or wherever they took them from, wherever, not Caribbean, but Africa. And they had those stories. Their parents shared those things with them so they could have an idea of what it was like. So there was still that spirit in them that probably did want to try to escape. You know what I mean? But then let's go them now having children, and even further, those children having children. So let's go 3 generations removed from the first inhabitants, the first captives brought here. Now their reality has been plantation for 3 generations. So they know more of that, and they get more stories, most of them horror stories, than what it was like in Africa. So is there a will for them to want to fight to get out of that situation? Yes. But is there a will to want to get back to Africa? Less, because they don't know what it is. They don't know what it's like. They only know what they've heard. And as generations go on, the story gets changed or depleted or wilted or even forgotten. Okay. So when we think about that now, our will to become, let's just say, free thinkers, to think for ourselves, to not do what everybody else is doing, has been decimated, we've been neutered. I think we've had a cultural lobotomy. I always say that, cultural lobotomy. I feel like our culture has been removed from our brains. We don't know how to think analytically about the site or the situations that we're living in for various reasons. One, we dare not to, because we don't want to deal with the repercussions. They've shown us examples of what they do to so-called troublemakers or free thinkers, right? We see what they've done to Stephen Biko, Patrice Lumumba, even Bob Marley, even the nonviolent Martin Luther King, etc. We've seen how folks that speak up or try to do something for themselves, and it becomes viral, so it becomes a collective, they become a problem for those folks that are trying to keep their boots on our necks. So we become neutered, and that comes from the plantation days. If you're not aware, they would take the strongest, wisest of our tribe on the plantation, and they would put them in front of everyone, be it male or female, and they would beat them to a pulp. If they're a man, especially, well, I'm sure with the women too, they would rape them in front of everyone. And then they would, however they want to do it, be it, mercilessly kill them, be it tying their one arm to one side of a horse, another arm to another side of a horse, smacking the horse on the ass, and then run away and pull the man's body parts apart. There was, the cutting off of the male's penis. There was and then at the end they would burn them, but they would go through so much physical pain in front of everyone. And what did this do to the onlookers? It made them feel like, wow, if they do this to our strongest, I don't have a chance. So it made you stay in your place. Okay. That was one form of being able to mentally program people to become docile, to not rebel. And then that rebellion, that shock, that trauma you've seen becomes part of their DNA, gets passed down, not only just cellularly, but also through stories. So the next generation, we've heard on the plantations where the mothers would raise their daughters, love their sons, right? What does that mean? That meant that the mothers would basically raise their daughters to not count on men, not because men couldn't be counted on, but because men would be killed at any moment. So they were teaching the women to learn to live your life without a man because he may not be here. He may not make it home. The man was told, don't use your voice. Don't use your strength, but use it in the form of your hands. Do work, craftsmanship, build things, but do not use your mind or use your mouth, because if you do, they will kill you. So this neutered the male gene of wanting to become domain of or king of his own life for fear of losing it. And this gets passed down generationally. This is all part of, and we all have pieces of that in us now, unknowingly or knowingly, that we choose not to face, which is the reason, again, why we've been programmed to become mediocre, right? And it's not so much to confirm this and say, yeah, we're going to be mediocre because they want us to be. No, we're doing a self-analysis, and then we can reverse engineer. Let's see, how do we become this way? So once we realize that, then maybe now we can start figuring out how to unravel this thing, right? That's the goal. It isn't just for us to all be here like, yeah, we messed up. Yeah. No, let's do something about it. The way you do something about it is you address the situation. You address the situation, and then you get down to the common denominator, and then you start to build from there on how to reverse engineer it. All right. So again, if you like what you're hearing so far, again, I'm glad that folks are still tuned in. Makes my heart warm, makes me smile. I would also appreciate if you would like to hit that like button. Help me build this channel. Again, we're going to be doing shows Tuesday through Thursdays at 9 p.m. For season 1, and we're going to see how it goes. I'm going to also do some what some folks are saying here. Amit Sankofawa said, "We can't be scared to die for the reality we want to see. That is what that's what I believe is first things first, right?" Zakia said, "But we do know that despite the barbarity, there were still thousands of rebellions resisting slavery, even though we only highlight Turner, Vedette, etc. The fight isn't completely stamped out. 100%. Those are the stories that aren't told, and they're not told for a reason. Because if you don't know, then you think that we took a bunch of L's. But if you knew that we did some things here, then that's going to spark some interest in some folks. And this is why they are hijacking our history. And they've been doing that. Ain't nothing new. They've been doing that. They've been suppressing our story for a very, very long time. So it's very important that we see these things, because if we don't address these things, then I'm sorry, I'm bringing some people in on video. I'm so sorry I didn't see these before. So again, me learning. This is my first time doing this, but I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna master this, because that's what I do. I master things, right? All right. So let me just send in these. All right. And give thanks, family, for tuning in again tonight. I really appreciate it. So again, if you get a chance, please like the video, subscribe so you get notifications for our shows that are, again, every Tuesday through Thursday. And as you see here on the bottom scroller there, if you find in your heart you want to donate something to me to help us keep this channel growing, anywhere, it could be $1, it could be $50, whatever you want to do, you can make a contribution to Cash App via at BitMarley. All right, so let's continue here, because this is really, again, I really want to talk about the reasons why we're in the situations that we're in, right? So let me get to my slide here. Get to my slide. Not you. We're getting there, y'all. All right, here we go. My bad. All right, the next slide is this one. This one is important. History is a lie agreed upon, right? History is a lie agreed upon. Napoleon Bonaparte said this, right? And it's so profound because, I mean, it's the caucasity, like they call it, the Caucasian audacity, the caucasity for white folk to be open about it, right? Flamboyant, gloating about it. It really is interesting. You know what I'm saying? Because, I hear, when I look back at history, they say that, the people that write the history are the ones that won, and they usually portray themselves as the victim, right? Think about it. Thanksgiving, You think about the Pilgrims, right? Everybody's talking about, oh, the Pilgrims, that they communed with the Indians or the Native Americans or whatever you want to have, right? Whatever you want to call them. And they don't talk about the fact that, or they'll talk about how they were being scalped and, they were, or in Africa, cannibalism, all that kind of stuff, right? Black people want to cook white folk. We know it's the other way around. But even with Thanksgiving, we know that we don't hear about Captain John Smith, who in his minutes wrote about how insane the Pilgrims were. His fellow comrades eating each other, literally eating each other because they had no food, literally like losing their minds and becoming on site. When they came here, when they came to America, they saw their first thing was not to commune with the Native Americans, but how to exploit them. How can we get them to do our bidding? How can we get from them what we need and then do away with them? Okay. So again, history is a lie agreed upon. Napoleon Bonaparte says this. But he also said, my decision to destroy the authority of the blacks in Saint Dominique or Haiti is not so much based on commerce and money as the need to block forever the march of the blacks in the world. Think about that, y'all. Napoleon understands that our folk in Haiti were probably some of the most powerful Africans in that time. And his point was, I need to mess them up so bad that if I can cripple them, then we can cripple the world of blacks. Did he do it? Let's look at our situation today. Seems like he was pretty successful so far. All right. So this has been carried out by the colonization of people, land, and its information, as I mentioned. So, when they came to the Nile Valley, and took over the tombs, the first thing they would do is go to the libraries and consume and take all of the information, right? And then they would come back later and portray it as theirs. This is what folks do when they want to take over stuff, right? So if we don't address these issues, as much as we want to talk about Kendrick Lamar's diss on Drake, it will become so bad we will not be able to pull ourselves out. History is so important, y'all. And I get it. People don't have time. They're tired or whatever your excuse is, because it is an excuse. To not know about your story and not know about the people responsible for changing the narrative of your story empowers them. It allows them to remain in power. Okay? That's the point I really want to make here, is that they are able to remain in power because we choose to not fight. As simple as that. We choose to not fight. So in order to do that, we must go back to the systemic origin of its design. And when you do that, you can not only find the culprits, you will understand why we've been stuck so long. Why are we mediocre and why have we been this way so long? Even though the world sees us, as this spectacular diamond in the rough, I say, or we're a monetized value. People make money off of us all the time in so many ways. So we are very valuable, but we don't see the value in ourselves enough to control it ourselves. We need validation from them. That's the problem. That's the problem. Right? So let's talk about this. Dr. Again, Nana John Henry Clark said that to control the people, you must first control what they think about themselves and how they regard their history. Think about themselves, how they think about themselves, how they regard their history. And when your conqueror makes you ashamed of your culture and your history, he needs no prison walls and no chains to hold you. That was Nana John Henry Clark. Okay. So we understand here that this has been systemically designed. We are in this world in a situation because someone designed it a certain kind of way, right? So with that said, we are designers. We're the original innovators. So why don't we start redesigning these situations to work for us, okay? So let's talk about this. Let's talk about it. All right. Add the next slide here. This is where we're going to get deep, y'all. Because I'm all about naming names, doing a timeline history so we know how these things were designed so that you can then be equipped with not just, man, things is messed up and white folk this. No, I can give you points. You can have specifics so that you can use this as a way to backtrack and see why we are in the situation that we're in today. Right. So I really want you to do some research, or I did it for you, but the bottom line, you can do some additional, is our historical situation, our educational system. It all starts, our mediocrity is rooted in our educational system. Okay. The American Historical Association is something you should look up. It's founded in 1884. It was a foundation. It's the oldest professional association of historians in the United States and the largest organization in the world. There's 12,000 historians representing every historical period in a geographical area of 10 areas of people activity. Now, the 10 areas of people activity, if you're not familiar, is 10 areas that global white dependency, yes, dependency, because they're not supreme. They need us to bite or follow this plan of theirs in order for them to be successful, right? So the way this works is the 10 areas of people activity are areas that are governed by whites, elites that control the world. What are these 10 areas? The areas are economics, education, entertainment, labor law, politics, health, religion, sex, and war. If you look at each of these 10 areas and you ask yourself, who's controlling these things? Who's at the behest of the organization and stabilization of these 10 areas? Who's in control of our educational system? It's Europeans. Who's in control of economics? It's Europeans. Who's in control of the laws? The wars. Each of the areas I mentioned, health, each of those areas are ran by white folk around the world. Okay. So these 10 areas of people activity were conjured up, by Doctors Neely Fuller and Francis Cress Welsing, and Brother Kidi Awadu also came with the 10th area, which is health. So it's important that we know this, because if you're looking for a black print to fighting global white dependency, this is that area. So Zakiya wants me to repeat those 10 areas. Again, the areas are economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, war, and the 10th one that was added by Brother Kidi again is health. Okay, so economics, entertainment, education, health, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And there are committees that are head of each of these 10 areas. Right? If you think about it, it's like a corporation. You have your marketing department, you have your legal department, you have your accounting department, etc. So we look at global white dependency. These are the departments that it has. These are the spokes in the wheel that allows it to remain supreme, quote unquote, right? This allows them to have the power that they have over the world, because they have folks in charge of the economics. They have folks in charge of the entertainment. They have their folks in place to deal with the labor, to conjure the wars. And they all work together, because we all know that war creates, it creates profit, right? So of course, the people in the Department of Law are going to make sure that the people in economics are going to be set up so that once they destroy a land, well, first of all, they conjure up and make the beef. They have them fight against each other, and then afterwards, those folks that are trying to now rebuild, the one that won is going to need funding to rebuild their city. Well, here comes our economics department. Okay, so that's how global white dependency has been created. But again, where did that mindset come from? Well, it had to be put out in a way where people would accept it. And what better way to do that than through your educational system? So the American Historical Association was able to create, they had 12, they made 12,000 historians, right? And use these 12,000 historians to go out into the world, to all of our educational systems, and basically institutionalize and professionalize global white dependency mindset concepts. Okay. It's really deep, y'all, because this stuff is public knowledge. And that's the thing about the devil. Like, they gloat. They're not going to sit up here and hide stuff for you. They're going to let you see what they up to and gloat about it, because what you going to do about it? You know what I'm saying? So that's what the situation is right now, is that this information is available. I mean, I look up American Historical Association and do the research. You'll see it yourself, right? So in particular, let's dig even deeper. Let's dig it even deeper. This guy, William Archibald Dunning. William Archibald Dunning was born in 1827, transitioned in 1922. As you see here, I highlighted some stuff here. I'm going to read it because, again, this is what it's about, is sharing information. Is that he was born on May 12th, 1857 in Plainfield, New Jersey, to Catherine Trelease and John Dunning. As a young man growing up through the Civil War, Reconstruction, and Jim Crow, Dunning was exposed firsthand to American history's rapidly changing political and social era. He attended Columbia University for his BA, MA, and PhD, and then taught at the university as a professor for the rest of his career. Let me just say, someone just sent in something. Okay. Okay. And while at Columbia, Dunning studied politics and philosophy. He met John Burgess. Okay. He met John Burgess. And, okay, come on. I'm sending it. Bring them on. I'm trying to bring them on. Sorry, y'all. I'm just trying to bring somebody in. Brother T, I'm trying to get you in. I don't know why it's not letting me do it. All right. I don't know. Okay, anyway. So he met John Burgess, a political science professor who influenced him, with whom Dunning formed a close relationship. Burgess was a racist and often taught his classes about germ theory. All right, eugenics, y'all. Germ theory. In connection to the biological superiority of the white founding fathers. The biological superiority, y'all. Y'all seen these Greek statues, right? Y'all seen the Greek statues where they show the guy's bosom or his jump. And but okay, biological superiority, all right, of the white founding fathers. Dunning and Burgess would work closely together over the years as Dunning completed his dissertation titled "The Constitution of the United States in Civil War and Reconstruction, 1880 to 1867." Okay, so Dunning, again, he's being groomed by a global white dependencies, or what do you want to call it, right? And they're in the educational space. So they're like, okay, we need to make this propaganda. We need to make other people believe what we're saying so that we can be on top and put everybody else on the bottom. So I need to recruit people. So William Dunning was one of his star pupils. Other things that William Dunning had did is throughout the many essays Dunning published till his death in 1922, Dunning was applauded for his incorporation of abundant primary source references and commended for his educational value in topical subjects during a time of heightened race conflict. The Supreme Court's ruling of Plessy versus Ferguson had shaken race-based politics in 1896. Dunning worked to justify white supremacy and support Jim Crow practice of segregation. He claimed that slavery was the only way that two races would live in harmony, and that with the abolition of slavery, the nation was now in a state of confusion that could only be remedied by returning to a system that produced the same racial tranquility, that is tranquility, right, as with slavery. So he's basically an advocate for slavery. He's an advocate for the lie that white folks are supreme genetically, mentally, and physically, and even in reproduction, right? Eugenics, again, I'm mentioning. So, again, you have an institution now. This is being institutionalized. We're having people being indoctrinated as teachers, as professors to teach this, right? So, what did he do next? Well, it couldn't be effective if you didn't have the trickle down drip theory happen, right? So he started the William Dunning School in 1865, and it was from 1865 to 1877. What he basically did next was diabolical, y'all. The Dunning School was a place where he basically trained all of our I'm sorry, not of all our historians. He trained all the teachers from collegiate on down to grade school on how to perpetuate this mindset of global white dependency or supremacy, right? Throughout the curriculum. So that meant we ain't gonna talk about black people at all. If we do, we're gonna talk about slavery, right? We'll give them that if we do that at all. But what we're really gonna talk about is how great we are. We're gonna put ourselves on this pedestal. Everyone's gonna love us. Everyone's gonna be envy of us. They're gonna want to be like us, etc. So he created this and expanded. When he had graduates, when he would have teachers come in to get certified from the Dunning School to be now a teacher or professor, they were now employed by the major universities. We're talking about Yale, Dartmouth, LSU, Ohio State, Smith College, Dartmouth, University of Kansas, University of Chicago, University of Wisconsin, the University of Texas. These were the universities that accepted these 12,000 historians and professors now into their ranks to influence the student body. Okay, so now you have an incubator. You have this collegiate level of professors that are teaching these students. These students now become indoctrinated. Some of them become teachers, and they can be teachers on all levels: high school, grade school, middle school. So now it gets filtered down throughout the entire educational system. All this is, and all these historians supported the white supremacy of Jim Crow and plantation owners, telling stories that racist violence was necessary during the Reconstruction and that people of African descent in the United States, or POATAs as you see here, were undeserving of political rights. This is our education, the American educational system, y'all. What majority of us came through. And you think about, if you're definitely, over 30, 40 years old, you can think about how little you learned about yourself and how much you had to learn the lies about George Washington never telling a lie. He chopped down a cherry tree. Right? This is what they brought us through. So I say that to say this is no different than why did this stop? I got a freeze here. Okay, wait a minute. see me or hear me? Okay, I think we're good now. I gotta upload my stuff again, y'all. So I'm sorry. Somehow my browser just froze and it wouldn't let me put my stuff in. Okay, so I see we're back on. All right, so let me just add my slides here. And I just gotta add a couple more things. Just bear with me. Apologies. You know, this is real time, so you know, with live, you gotta deal with it. You gotta deal with it. You don't really get to do cuts and edits and all that stuff. So that's just what it is. But we're about to get into
have been taught by white people.
Okay, we'll stop that. I'm just bringing these things in here for y'all to see. So I'm not playing it now. Just 1 second. Just bear with me. I got 2 more things to add. And then we're going to be good to go. Okay, stop that one. Remove it. And I got 1 more thing to add. No. Appreciate your patience. Got 1 more thing to add here. All right. So,
have been taught by white people who've been taught by.
Sorry. 1 more thing. It's this one. I got it now. Okay. And again, this is what the life of live broadcasting is like, right? So this is just what it is. All right. Now, I didn't want that if y'all to see that, but it is what it is. Okay, so we're back. So I appreciate it. Sorry for the delay here, little tech thing. And again, this virtual stuff is bugging me out too. I'm gonna work on it. We're gonna get it better. You know, this is the first one, and you know, sometimes you just jump in with both feet and see how we can get it better. So again, the topic tonight we're talking about is we've all been programmed to become mediocre, right? So where I was left at before is, and if you've been watching and if you come in and you like what you've heard so far, please feel free to like the video to help us build our channel. And also, if you feel it in your heart that you would love to contribute something, a donation, any amount, any dollar amount, be $1, $1,000, whatever you want to do, you're welcome to. Please, you can send it to, I will send it here to, here we go. No, not that one. Here we go. I'm sorry. Here we go. Yeah, so the information's on the ticker here. You can send it to Bitmarley. Okay. Again, this virtual stuff, we're gonna get it better. I'm not happy with it, but you know, show goes on, right? So this is, I'm hoping you're loving what we're talking about tonight. Let's get back into it. So I want to play this video that confirms what we're talking about as far as William Dunning, right? Because we were talking about William Dunning. We were here with William Dunning and the Dunning School, right? And what he's done is now he's populated his propaganda. He's put it into his army of professors who are now going throughout the world, or throughout the country rather, the educational system, putting out this narrative of global white dependency, right? So the next video I want to show you is this.
People who've been taught by white people, who've been taught by white people, who've been taught by white people, taught by white people, using textbooks written for, about white people. You pretty much only ever had white teachers. So if you're white, you were relentlessly reflected at the front of the room, and you could get through graduate school without having a teacher of color, right? Or maybe 1, maybe 2. And if you're a person of color, rarely, if ever, did you see yourself reflected at the front of the room. So that teaching force, which is upwards of 93% white across the nation, and yet these teachers are now in the position to decide who's smart, who belongs where, who should be punished for what. And we see this empirically in the outcomes of tracking, special ed referrals, punishment, expulsion, the school to prison pipeline.
So again, you know, think about this, you know, if you go back to your educational experience, right? Let me get some water real quick. Your educational experience, you could probably count on one finger. I said it, one finger. How many black teachers you might have had? depending on the state you lived in. But in most cases, a lot of us didn't have many black teachers. Most of them were all white. A lot of them were white women. And so there was a certain stigma that, our educational experience was, right? Not realizing that our educational experience has a lot to do with how we feel about ourselves and how we see ourselves or how we don't see ourselves. It's very important. I was raised in a single parent family. I didn't have a father. He was a bum, and he did not participate at all in my life. So with that said, I didn't have very many positive male role models in my life. I had a few, but nothing that I was around 24/7. Like a lot of us, and that's no crutch. It's just the reality that me trying to understand what a black man is, trying to understand a black man, number one, came first from anger because I was pissed because my father wasn't around. My father didn't love me, and I didn't understand why. So I didn't love myself, not realizing it, but I had a very bad view of black men. Even when my mother got remarried, I didn't like him. She loved him. I didn't like him. He's a black man, but I didn't like him because my father left me. And then, so my perception starting out of black men were very bad. So then when you go to a school and you're being taught by white women or white men and you don't see any black men, and if you do, they're probably the janitor or whatever, your perception is, that messes with you. Even as a child, it messes with you. In addition to the fact that you're hearing different types of mindsets that is being subliminally thrown at us, right? Sister Coke Wolf said, Dr. Jawanza Kajufu had an excellent dissertation, The Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. It was shot in the early 70s and 80s, but everything they talked about is relevant for today. Absolutely. I hope more black men, especially look into becoming educators. It isn't healthy to be taught by people who don't share your culture and don't understand you. Ashe, give thanks for that, sis. I appreciate that. Yes. And I'm so thankful for mine, Black and Muslim in America. Our parents believed in homeschooling first and foremost. Yes, homeschooling is ideal, but most of us, unfortunately, were not part of that. And so, to Sister Coke's point, roughly 80% of all educators, all teachers in the United States are white. 80%. 80%. Guess how many are black percentage? Drum roll. 6%. 6% of all teachers in America are black. Just 6%. Okay. And there are, I think there are roughly half of Black America's population are youths. Okay. So if there's 41 million of us, roughly 20 million students are being exposed to predominantly white teachers, and only 6% of those teachers get to touch that demographic. Black male teachers, of those 6%, 1.3%. So to quote her point, it's important for even black educators. I also echo that. I teach, I do contracts with different schools, and I go in and teach the kids, and it's a different experience. You can see the kids when they see you, they act differently. There's a certain kind of love they give you because they see someone that looks like them, and we can relate. You know what I mean? Y'all probably seen that viral video this was a few years ago with a black teacher where every student would come in and they do the little hand gesture or whatever. And that was really dope. It became viral, but then you had a white teacher do it and it became super viral. Why? Because it was a white person. But she just bit off like they always do. They're pirates. So they bit off what we were doing. But the bottom line is that we see that's what they do. They always plagiarize and copyright, right? Behind it. But anyway, I really want to get into the science behind all of this. The science behind this is very, very important because, again, it's systemic. I'm not just making this up. This isn't just to sit here and like, okay, I feel like talking about white folk and how destructive they are. No, they did it themselves. They put it out themselves. They are not shying from this. So I want to share with you this next clip, and we're going to go through this. We're going to dissect it as it's being played because I really want to make some points here. But this is the start of the educational system in America. And I think not only should every teacher see this, every parent and also student should see this so that you understand the origin of how this thing began. All right. So let's do it. Here we go. Again, I'm going to be pausing and picking up or whatever just to talk about some things here. Okay. So most people don't know who controls America because little attention has been given the question by either educators or the public. Also because the question is not easily or neatly answered. Remember that, right? School scene. A small number of very passionate American ideological leaders visited Prussia in the first half of the 19th century, fell in love with the order, obedience, and efficiency of its education system, and campaigned relentlessly thereafter to bring the Prussian vision to these shores in America. Okay? It's about to get real crazy, y'all. Real crazy. To do that, children would have to be removed from their parents and from inappropriate cultural influences. They had to take the kids from the parents, y'all. Before we went to school, kids were taught at home. They were homeschooled before there was an education system. And they created a system where we became dependent. Families stopped farming so they could get food off of their own land. And they made them hey, we can make the food for you. Come to the market. Well, yeah, it costs. So you got to have money to buy it. Well, if you don't have money to buy it, you got to get a job. So if you get a job, that means you're going to go away to work during the day. Well, who's going to watch your kids? So school systems were really daycare centers, started out, because people had to go out and, we're talking about over generations. It's not like in one lifetime, but you might have had a lot of our great grandparents were sharecroppers, right? They knew how to grow off the land because all we needed was food, clothing, shelter, right? And water. But they convinced us somehow that let's become industrialized and let's go and get our food and our water and our dependencies off of them now, right? So now let's go to their stores. Let's go to, let them facilitate our well-being, right? Sister Zakiya said, we lost 100,000 Black teachers, teachers at school buildings, leaders during the Brown cases. We're still trying to get these numbers back, and it isn't because Black people don't want to be teachers. Black teachers before Brown were more credentialed than the white teachers ever were. Please read Leslie T. Fenwick's Jim Crow's Pink Slip. Interesting. Give thanks for that, sister. I'm gonna look at that for sure. Give thanks for that. Okay. So we're seeing how they made us dependent, got us out the house, got us to buy into the rat race psychosis, right? Got us to go and say, okay, let me go out here and get my money so that then I can live this life that I want to live, right? Instead of I was already living a life and I was in control of it. But now my life is dependent on this overseer or boss who's going to hire me and pay me every 2 weeks, exchanging money for labor, right? So the kids were left over. So again, systemically, someone sat down and devised a plan. And they understood if we want to control generations, we need to get their kids. We need to get the parents out the house. Someone need to watch the kids. We'll give them to us. We'll watch them. So that's what basically happened. So to do that, they would have to be removed from their parents and from inappropriate cultural influences. Inappropriate cultural influences were basically their customary lifestyles. So if you were from a Black family, they don't want you to learn about Black culture. They don't want you to know about yourself because we're going to indoctrinate you with a whole different mindset. So they classify that as inappropriate, y'all. It was inappropriate to them because it went against their bottom line. They're trying to control us. All right. Break this down, y'all. John Taylor Cato said that. So I'm just gonna wait till this thing fills up and we'll read it, because this thing goes pretty fast. And I'll be happy to share the link to this if you need it. American educationalists imported three major ideas from Prussia, right? Three major ideas from Prussia. The first was that the purpose of state schooling was not intellectual training, but the conditioning of children to become obedient, subordinate, and in a collective light. All right. Okay. So I'm saying, y'all, this is indoctrination. This is all part of a plan. I'm trying to make sure I'm getting everybody's comments up here, because I give thanks for you wanting to do that. I love the engagement. I love the fact that you're here with me. I cannot thank you again. Appreciate this. It's really warming my heart. I'm not here talking by myself. I give thanks. And yes, please feel free to continue the engagement. And again, if you haven't already, please like this video. Please subscribe to the channel so that you can be advised when the next episodes come out again every Tuesday through Thursday. So let's continue. Let's get it. All right. So we must focus on creating citizens for the good of society. For the good of society. Now, who is society, right? It's them. It's not you. It's them. They're doing this for their benefit, right? So public schools promote civic rather than individual pursuits. They want to take away the individualism. They want to take away your free will, your free thinking. They want you to be a robot and think like everybody else, right? So in order to do that, they need to get control of you. They need to be able to get their hands on you. If I can have you 6-7 hours a day, Monday through Friday, 10 months out of the year, for generations moving forward, I can make you act any way I want you to act. Okay? This is the thing. Each child belongs to the state. Y'all see that? Each child belongs to the state. So again, this is them basically kidnapping our children without a gun. Right? Shiesty. But I mean, you got to tip their hat off. They'd actually plan this thing out. 1 second. All right. Okay. So continue. William H. Sewell, Professor of Education. Classroom. What it is. We all are part of these. Right? We who are engaged in the sacred cause of education are entitled to look upon all parents as having given hostages to our cause. Those hostages being our children, to the cause. It's a long one, okay? On the night of June 9th, 1834, a group of prominent men, chiefly engaged in commerce, monetary guys, gathered privately in Boston drawing room to discuss a scheme of universal schooling. Secretary of this meeting was William Ellery Channing, Horace Mann's own minister, as well as an international figure and leading Unitarian of his day. The location of the meeting house is not entered into the minutes, nor are the names of the assembly's participants apart from Channing. Even though the literacy rate, now this is deep, even though the literacy rate in Massachusetts was 98%, 98% of the population could read, and the neighboring Connecticut was 99.8%, meaning, probably one person couldn't read. And that was probably a baby. The assembled businessmen agreed the present system of schooling allowed too much to depend upon chance. It encouraged more entrepreneurial exuberance than the social system could bear. What is he saying? Man, if these people can read, then they can become independent and do their own thing. We don't want that. We need them to become dependent upon us. We don't want them to be empowered to do their own entrepreneurial experiences. We need them to be part of our system. All of y'all can read. We can't have that. We got to dumb y'all down. I know it's a long one. Do y'all see this right here? We're going to be talking about this tomorrow when I talk about Skull and Bones and the Boule. But that's Skull and Bones. All right? Skull and Bones is the second chapter of the Illuminati. If you're not aware, Skull and Bones was founded at Yale University in 1832. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Tune in. It was natural businessmen should have devote themselves to something besides business. That they should seek to influence the enactment and administration of laws, national and international, and that they should try to control education. You got businessmen, y'all, that now want to control how you think, your education. Why? Because it affects their bottom line, makes you a better profit for them if they can control how you think, how you act. Who do we see here? Oh, that's Andrew Carnegie. You know, we see a couple of other. I don't see Rockefeller in here yet, but you see these men with these top hats. I think that's that's J.P. Morgan. So there's some folks in here. Who these people are. In 1852, the first compulsory schooling laws went into effect in Massachusetts. 80% of the public resisted this new law. In 1880, it took the militia, the military, to persuade the parents. Persuade? Persuade? The military? What do they persuade? They don't persuade with their voices. The parents of Barnstable on Cape Cod to give up their children to the system. In 1852, the American military came in and said, give me your kids, we're taking them to school. Resisting, you don't want this fire. You don't want this smoke. Okay. Sister Jashira, greetings. She said, not sure if you already discussed this, but a video about this from Prince Ea a few years back is the reason I shortened homeschooling my son. I started homeschooling my son. Yes. Jashira also said, I've said for years that there is no good reason not to have two separate financial societies for employment and entrepreneurs. They just want to make it harder and harder to step away from needing them. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep, sister. It is sick. And yeah, Kevin, damn, y'all, for real. It's crazy, right? All right, so this is Roosevelt, not Roosevelt. I'm forgetting his name. It's gonna pull up. This is his name. It's gonna hit me. We want one class of persons to have a liberal education, and we want another class of persons, a very much larger class of necessity in every society, to forego the privilege of a liberal education and fit themselves to perform specific, difficult manual tasks. What? Right? So this is Woodrow Wilson. I don't know why it's escaping me. So he's saying that they're telling you right there, well, yeah, we want to partition just a small select few of our kids mainly, so that y'all can go to liberal, y'all can do whatever you want, go to school. Our schools are going to be not curriculum based. You can go in whatever you are interested in, right? The rest of y'all are going to go to this school system where we have an indoctrinated system where you have to sit in this cubicle all day, or this chair rather, which is like a cubicle, because when you become an adult, you're going to be working in a cubicle. You got to raise your hand to use the bathroom, etc. And you're going to be indoctrinated with information that is going to be meaningless. I mean, when's the last time you used chemistry? When's the last time I used equal MC squared? When have I used, pi for anything, right? In my real life, in my adult life. But the point is that we want you to be fitted to do more difficult manual tasks, hard labor. That's what they want the majority. That's the pipeline. Okay, Woodrow Wilson, president. In our dream, people give themselves a perfect docility to our molding hands. Docility meaning that you don't fight, you just accept it. The present educational conventions, intellectual and character education fade from our minds, and unhampered by tradition, we work our own good will upon a grateful and responsive folk. So we are basically trying to recreate a whole new type of people. We shall not try to make these people or any of their children. So look, y'all, this is where it's getting deep. I gotta change my seat here. They are making sure that they neuter the creativity in our children, in us, because we also went through this system, right? So they don't want us to become philosophers or men of learning or men of science. We have not raised them up from among them authors, educators, poets, or men of letters, PhDs, etc. We shall not search for embryo children of great artists, painters, musicians, nor lawyers, doctors or preachers, politicians and statesmen, of whom we have ample supply, meaning we don't want y'all, we already making our own. We don't need y'all. We need y'all to do the hard labor. We got who we want. The task we set before ourselves is a very simple as well as a very beautiful one. We will organize our children and teach them to do it in a perfect way, the things their fathers and mothers are doing in an imperfect way. Yo. Diabolical. So who said that? First mission statements of Rockefeller's General Educational Board. Rockefeller's General Educational Board in 1904. This man right here, John D. Rockefeller. The goal of these wealthy families and their foundations, a seamless, non-competitive global system for commerce and trade. When stripped of flowery expressions of concern for minorities, the less fortunate, etc., represented the initial stage of what this author now refers to as the deliberate dumbing down of America. The deliberate dumbing down of America. And John Rockefeller is the orchestrator behind it. Charles, I can't say his last name, senior policy, blah, 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 Department of Education. This is the Department of Education. The Department of Education knows that they're dumbing us down. So here we got Rockefeller, we got Carnegie Mellon, John Carnegie, JP Morgan. Not sure who this guy is. The conditioning of modern American society began with John Dewey, a psychologist. That's probably John Dewey, a Fabian socialist and the father of progressive education. Dewey used the psychology developed by William Wundt and believed that through a stimulus response approach like Pavlov, students could be conditioned for a new social order. Conditioning. Again, why we programmed to become mediocre? This is where it comes from. This is where it comes from. Charlotte Issa, I can't say her name. That's the book she wrote, Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. I believe that education is a regulation of the process of coming to share in the social consciousness, and that the adjustment of individual activity on the basis of this social consciousness is the only sure method of social reconstruction. It's a lot of gibberish, but what he's basically saying is, we coming to mess y'all up. Okay, some more verbiage here. And this is, I'm hoping you're following this. I know it's a lot, but I have to give it to you. And you can always replay it, rewind, whatever. This is information that this is the information they don't want you to know, y'all. All right. Plans are underway to replace family, community, and churches with propaganda, mass media, and education. Of course, he meant schooling. People are only little plastic lumps of dough. Another insider, H.H. Kadar, chairman for the psychology department at Princeton, called government schooling approvingly the perfect organization of the hive with the anthill. Kadar wrote further, standardizing tests will cause the lower classes to confront their biological inferiority. Let me say that again. Standardized testing will cause the lower classes to confront their biological inferiority, sort of like wearing a dunce cap. In time, that would discourage reproduction of the ants on the anthill. So we all talk about these SATs and all these tests they have are biased, right? Because we people of color don't relate because we haven't come in those type of venues. We didn't have that experience. So not only do we feel because we take a test that we don't know the answers, we feel like we're dumb, we're stupid, we're missing out. We don't realize it was purposely, we were purposely not invited. So naturally, if you get into a place in an arena where you're being tested, be it physically, spiritually, mentally, whatever it is, and you're showing up for a test or whatever it is, a challenge, and you don't do well, you're gonna be hard on yourself. You're gonna think that you don't own up. You're not worthy. So this is how they created that ants on the anthill that would stop building for themselves. In fact, believing in themselves. Okay? It's all calculated psychology to make us feel less than an inferior and thus live a life of mediocrity. All planned. Please understand this. John Taylor got the dunce cat. Right? That's why we don't do well in school, because it's not interesting. It's not catered towards us. We were 13 at the meeting. Two things caused Dr. Ziegler, who was chairman of the educational committee of the Council of Foreign Relations, to ask me to attend my talk on the teachings of functional physics in high school. Council of Foreign Relations, y'all. You need to look that information, look them up. We'll talk about them too down the line. And the fact that I was a member of a group known as the Progressive Educators of America, which was nothing but a communist front. I thought the word progressive meant progress for better schools. 11 of those attending the meeting were leaders in education. Doctors John Dewey and Edward Thorndike from Columbia University were there, and the others were of equal rank. I checked later and found that all were paid members of the Communist Party of Russia. I was classified as a member of the party, but I did not know it at the time. So you're being included, don't even know it. They're bringing you in and speak on something that you are an expertise in, and then people say, oh yeah, he's a member. Yo, diabolical, man. Diabolical. Yes, Kendra, everything is and was by its own. Everything. All right, we're almost through with this. We're almost through. The sole work of the group was to destroy our schools. We spent 1 hour and 45 minutes discussing the so-called modern math. At one point, I objected because there was too much memory work, and math is reasoning, not memory, it's reasoning. Dr. Ziegler turned to me and said, Nelson, wake up. That is what we want, a math that the pupils cannot apply to life situations when they get out of school. Do you understand what you're saying and have been saying? Why did I learn all this stuff? What is this for? You were right. They purposely put out these things to waste your time and confuse you and make you feel like you're not worthy. That math was not introduced until much later, as those present thought it was too radical a change. A milder course by Dr. Breckner was substituted, but it was also worthless as far as understanding math was concerned. The radical change was introduced in 1952. It was the one we are using now. So pupils come out of high school now not knowing any math. Don't blame them. Don't blame them. Yo, the math is not mathing, right, Gerard? It's not mathing, because that's what they set this thing up as, y'all. This is the point. This is the history they don't want you to know. And this is the one they want you to feel you're too busy to learn about this stuff. You need to know this stuff because we need to break the chain. We're going to reverse engineer this chain. But when you can't make change if you don't know how it was created. All right? Almost through. Come next slide. I'm hoping y'all digging this. Please like if you haven't. This is crazy work. I'm aware of it. Yep. It's just wow to actually see it in writing. Right. They put it in writing. They gloat, yo. The results are supposed to be worthless. The results are supposed to be worthless. O.A. Nelson, teacher and later vice principal of Wilson High School, Minnesota. Okay? These teachers and these principals already know what they teach me is bullshit. It's bullshit. Our kids are going to learn bullshit. And they come out and supposed to now be in the adult world and figure out how to live life with no equipment, no tools. The mind of the average American became conditioned to accept the idea that education exists solely for the purpose of getting a good paying job in the global workforce economy. Do y'all hear me? Go to school, watch, and get a job. Go and get a job, y'all. We all did this. We're all victims of this. Okay? So I'm not pointing fingers. The one I'm pointing, please put right back at me. This is the cubicle we're seeing. From the school room to the cubicle at work. The thesis I venture to submit to you is as follows: that during the past 40 or 50 years, those who are responsible for education have progressively removed from the curriculum of students the Western culture which produced the modern democratic state. That the schools and colleges have therefore been sending out into the world men who no longer understand the creative principle of the society in which they must live, meaning they don't know how to take care of themselves. Okay, they're deprived of their cultural tradition, right? All those stories that our grandparents used to live by, and no, we forgot all those things. So now we're working 9 to 5. The nearly educated Western men no longer possess in the form of substance of their own minds and spirits and ideas, meaning you don't know how to do for yourself, nor have the inspiration to do so, even though shit is fucked up. Excuse my language, right? The premises, the rationale, the logic, the method, the values, and the deposited wisdom, which are the genius of the development of Western civilization, that the prevailing education is destined, if it continues to destroy Western civilization. Now, they're pro-Western civilization. Of course, I'm not. But they're talking about consensus. The consensus, I mean, I agree that, what they've done is they've robbed you of your ability to do and think for yourself. And becomes trickled down through your generation. Bloodline. That's what's really important, right? What their prayers call it, that's right, Kev. They school. And we continue to send them there. We were better being segregated. And they knew that. That's why they let the young sister cross the line and go to and segregate the schools. They understood for the betterment of their. It's destroying this country. I realize quite well that this thesis constitutes a sweeping indictment of modern education, but I believe the indictment is justified, and there is a prima facie case for entering this indictment. And so, they're turning against the system. That erroneous assumption is to the effort that the aim of the public education is to fill the young of the species with knowledge and awaken their intelligence. Nothing could be further from the truth. Kids are becoming out. They're more disinterested. The aim of public education is not to spread enlightenment at all. It's not to spread enlightenment to all. It is simply to reduce as many individuals as possible to the same safe level, to breed and train a standardized citizenry, to put down dissent and originality, that it is the aim of the United States, whatever the pretensions of politicians, pedagogies, and other such mountebanks, that is the aim everywhere else. This is about ridding yourself of your own individuality and becoming basically a spoke of the will. We need you to be out there working. What we're into is a total restructuring of society. The worker bee mentality. Nearly half of all Americans read so poorly that they cannot find a single piece of information when reading a short publication. Americans cannot find the United States map, 20%. probably higher now. 50% of Americans were functionally illiterate and read below a 5th grade level. I think that number is much higher. 50% of adults cannot read a book written at an 8th grade level. 1 out of every 2 can't read an 8th grade level book. Adults. So that is the result of the educational system. I really hope that you, it was heavy. That was heavy. Just, me finding that years ago, and I use this when I teach my financial literacy class and also my STEM class, because we all have to understand that we're part of a system that is responsible for the mindset that we have. Sister Kendra said that we bought into this thinking we were empowered and empowering ourselves with the educational system. Exactly. We were told, hey, go get certified, get a master's, get a PhD, get a whatever, and you'll get this money. But the actuality is that the money, you're basically crippling yourself, because the day they want to let you go, what you got? You know what I mean? If you haven't invested or put away things to help yourselves be in a better situation, you're going to be ass out, right? So let me make sure I have everything that I wanted to touch here. Yes. So we're getting ready to close out, y'all. Yeah, brainwashing is what it is, Sister Bernice. Absolutely, 100%. Yes. So no matter how much education you have, these institutions will not teach you how to manage money. If they did, they'd be rendered powerless, jeopardizing their bottom line, make money off your ignorance. So we go and, we do everything that we're told to do. We're told to go get educated. We go get a high school diploma. Now we're told, that ain't enough. You need to get a college degree, a bachelor's at least. Now a bachelor's is equivalent to a high school diploma that was free. Now they want you to pay. So that we want you to now have at least a bachelor's. So you got to pay unless you get scholarships. And even then, now you need to get a master's, because a master's is equivalent of what a bachelor's used to be now. So when you're getting a master's, you're definitely taking out more loans. And this is why, the college loan system, that's a political point for every president that has to address this thing, because there's so many millions of people that owe money trying to pay off college, and they've been out of college for 20, 30 years, still paying off college loans, right? So this is all leads to the result is that we have more high school and collegiate grads with no concept of how to earn money without being hired. We don't know how to do for ourselves. So with that said, and give thanks, Sister Kendra, for the Cash App donation. I really appreciate that. And again, anyone, if you feel like this is worthy content, I humbly give thanks for any dollar donation. It helps me to keep the channel going and put these information out. So I give thanks for that. Salute. But the bottom line is that, we've been lied to thinking if we get educated, certified, we be rich, right? That's what we were told. We were told if you go ahead and get educated, that it's guaranteed that you will have all the things you need in life. You'll have that white picket fence. You'll have everything that you always wanted. And the reality is, when you ask someone that's been in this state, I mean, if you're young and you're watching this, ask your aunts, uncles, parents, and that's been working for 20, 30 years. What is their financial status? And hopefully they'll be candid with you and be honest. Most won't, because we're embarrassed, but and also pissed off. That's another thing. But to have that conversation is important, because it removes the individuality. Because a lot of us are embarrassed because we think it's an individual situation or problem, and actuality, we all are going through this. Sister Ahmed says that this is why I didn't go to college, and because of not wanting to be in student debt. Absolutely. There's a stat that shows that folks that went to a 4-year college 10 years later have more debt than someone that started working straight out of high school. Simply why? Because they don't have a college loan. That's the most major debt that people have, is college loan. There's over $500 billion. No, that's wrong. That's credit card debt. Student loan debt is much higher than $500 billion. And again, because we're told, I gotta point this out too. I gotta point this out. I was gonna save it, but I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna say it now. This is a startling statistic that we need to understand. First, let me get what Gerard said here. Think about it. We worked 30 plus years for corporate and finished to be let go and have to have not much to show for it, or go to the top notch university and then end up in debt over loans. 100%, brother Gerard. Exactly. That's the situation, right? So let me just paint this picture to you statistically. Every year, graduation season is upon us, right? June. So we're going to start getting college and high school graduates. There's going to be, 5 million high school graduates between now and June, right? There's going to be another 3.5 million college graduates, same period. That's 8.5 million graduates, right? Now, yes, some will continue their education. Some high schools will go to college. Some undergrads will go to graduate school, etc. But the majority of them are going to start working. There's a large percentage, and I don't know, I'm just going to say about at least 80%, 70%, I would say 70 to 80% are going to go into the work field, right? I don't know what that number is of 8.5, 70% of that, but I'm sure it's like closer to like 6 million. So 6 million people, new people, are going to be wanting to look for jobs. So they're coming into the space, the job sector. With that said, America on a good year creates about 2 to 2.2 million jobs a year. Do y'all see where I'm going with this? So there's only 2.2 million jobs a year, and you have roughly 6 million applying for those 2 million jobs. Everybody's not gonna get a job. Oh, I forgot something though. We didn't count the fact. What about those that are already in the job space that lost their job and trying to find another job, or that needs a second job or a third job or even a fourth job? They are also going for those 2 million jobs that are available. So the point is there's slim pickings. And when you are in a space where you've done what they said you're supposed to do, and just because you've done what they said what you're supposed to do, doesn't mean you're supposed to be rewarded. You're going to get exactly what they wanted to give you. Remember what I said at the beginning? If you don't make your own plan, someone devises a plan for you. What they got planned for you? Not much. This is what the not much part starts to kick in. Yeah, you went and got your certification. You got your high school or your bachelor's. Okay. And what do you want now? I ain't got much for you. And had you known, you wouldn't have went that route, because that is the end result, is that there's nothing here for you. You don't have any intellect. I've controlled your mind. You don't have any willpower to go and do for yourself. You don't have any entrepreneurial aspirations. Your mindset is cut into, you have tunnel vision about the way you see and conceptualize things, because I taught you that through school. You don't know how to think for yourself. And I've loaded you with a whole bunch of programs and algorithms that you won't even use. So what better worker bee mentality would you want? You will spend your life trying to find work for me, opposed to you doing for yourself. This is how, again, and wrapping this all up, is how we've been all programmed to become mediocre. So this comes to the rat race psychosis. I ain't gonna talk about the AI part. We're gonna talk about that in another class, another lesson. I'm sorry, another episode. Me getting out of my school mentality, but the point that I want to make here is that I'm hoping that in this evening, you have seen some things that are hopefully triggering something inside you to understand that we've been lied to. We've been lied to, y'all. And it's okay. We've been lied to. Now that you know you've been lied to, the question is, what do you do about it? Because you still can do something about it. You still can do something about it. You don't have to just continue to sit in this situation and accept what's been given to you. Oh, this stuff is really, I'm going to work on this, y'all. I promise. I'm going to get it better, because I'm just fading out. It's bugging me out. But I give thanks for you staying here. Social Security, that may or may not be available for you. Absolutely. This is what we're seeing here, is that, we're investing in stuff that may not even be here for us. Kevin says, if I was young man now, I would go the skilled trades route. Absolutely. Skills. when you know a skill, you can be employed forever. You're a mechanic, electrician, a builder. These things are recession damn near proof. Right? Sister Amit said that what other ways can we donate besides Cash App? You can actually send through PayPal. I'm going to actually let me put that on here. Make a quick banner here. 1 second. Via PayPal at sales at, or you can inbox me directly. You can inbox me directly, and I'll put that here too. Or you can email me, and I can give you my Zelle. I'll give you this. Whoops. Okay, 1 second. Let me make sure I get my email right. Sorry, 1 second. I'll just put this in here for now. I have so many emails. I'm going to make sure I have it right. Okay. So you can donate via PayPal rather, or you can contact me directly at. I'm sorry. Let me edit that. There is no exclamation point. Okay, save. There we go. And there we go. All right. So yeah, I give thanks for your time tonight. We hopefully went into some stuff that's really making you think about some things that I hope triggered you to want to begin the process of reverse engineering, the way we've been taught. And most importantly, sharing this with your loved ones, your family, friends, etc., because we need to break that cycle. And I always talk about this educational system was designed this way. I mean, it makes it easier. So when in the replay, I will put the link to the actual video that we went through, that we dissected, so that you can share that with other folks as well. Or you can have them just come and watch this video. That might even be better, because they can get the whole dosage and narrative, because that video was just that video. There's no narrative behind this to support, the points that are being made. And it's actually Eurocentric based. So we had to give our Black spin to it. All right. So with that said, we're going to close out. This was my first show. I'm so grateful for everyone that came in. Since that, I'm not pushing my daughter to go to college or university, but other routes such as trade, becoming an investor, it's absolutely. There are so many other things that we can do and we need to look into. They are available. This is an amazing. Definitely have my wheel spinning. Give thanks. Appreciate you, Sister Kidra. And everyone else, I do appreciate you all for tuning in, whether you watched it live or you'll be watching a replay. Again, if you feel this information was good, something worth tuning into, we're going to be here tomorrow. We're going to be here Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 9 o'clock. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about why I wrote the book, Who is the Boule? And this is the history of America's first Black fraternity, and why they're responsible, co-conspirators to the delay of African liberation. It's going to be a very, very intense, I think, conversation that may disrupt some folks about how they feel about our historical organizations. But nevertheless, it's an important conversation. Again, this is topics about ways to freedom. We're trying to free our minds. We're trying to understand and unlearn some things that we have been taught, because we're still going through a progress. We're going through we're a project that needs to be elevated, because we have folks that are following us, and this information needs to be shared with them. If it's not shared with them, it's going to get lost. So I hope that you'll tune in tomorrow. Again, if you did enjoy tonight, if you haven't, please like the video, share it. It will be on my YouTube channel. Subscribe so you'll get notifications of new ones. And understand that, we got this. Zakia, let me just read this last one. Zakia, thank you for hosting and providing this platform. I love that link. Have a good night, y'all. My mentee is graduating from Howard School of Social Work in the AM. Give thanks to start. And we're going to talk about mentor in another talk, because mentor is something that we need to stop saying, but that's okay. It's all good. But give thanks for your time. And I hope that you all will have a blessed evening, and looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bless up.